Good evening, it's Monday the 27th of January and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Rebels close in. Rebels and Rwandan forces reach Goma, shutting down airport and forcing thousands to flee. Hostage exchange. The freed soldiers reunited with their families while Palestinians in Ramallah celebrate the return of 200 prisoners. An unexpected reward. A group of student athletes is seeing their commitment and perseverance pay off as they receive unforgettable surprises that will transform their future. Thank you for joining us on World News once again. According to the top UN official in the region, Congolese rebels and Rwandan forces reached the outskirts of Goma, forcing the airport city in the key eastern city to shut down. Thousands have fled the fighting, which has claimed the lives of at least 13 peacekeepers as Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group advances on the provincial capital, a critical hub for security and humanitarian aid.
Rwandan-backed fighters on Sunday closed in on eastern Congo's largest city of Goma, forcing thousands of civilians to flee, and grounding flights from the local airport as government forces battled to stop the rebels from seizing the city. The rapid advances by the M23 rebel movement have raised fears that the fighting could spill over into a regional war. Bintu Keita is the special representative of the Secretary General in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So far, 3 UN peacekeepers have been killed, while 7 South African soldiers and 3 from Malawi, serving in a separate Southern African mission, also lost their lives this week, South African and UN authorities said. 3 years into their current insurgency, the rebels, who the United Nations say received backing from neighboring Rwanda, now control more Congolese territory than ever before. France's United Nations ambassador called for Rwanda to withdraw its troops from Congo territory. Home to about 1 million people, M23 fighters began moving on the city of Goma earlier this week and have vowed to seize the city. According to a statement by the Office of the UN Humanitarian Coordinator, several 100,000 people had been forced to flee. Congo severed all diplomatic ties with Rwanda amid this week's rebel offensive. A spokesperson for Rwanda's government did not respond to a request for comment.
Meanwhile, South Korea's impeached president has been indicted on the unprecedented charges of leading and insurrecting over his brief imposition of martial law last December. If convicted, Yoon faces significant prison time for attempting to ban political activity and control the media.
South Korea's prosecutors indicted impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol on Sunday. Yoon's lawyers confirmed that he faces charges of leading an insurrection when he briefly imposed martial law in December. The charges are unprecedented for a South Korean president. If convicted, Yoon could face years in prison. His lawyers criticized the indictment as the worst choice made by prosecutors, while the main opposition party welcomed the decision. Asia's 4th largest economy has been plunged in political chaos since Yoon's martial law decree on December the 3rd, which sought to ban political and parliamentary activity and control the media. Separate to his criminal charges, the Constitutional Court is also in the process of determining whether to remove Yoon from office permanently or reinstate him. That's after Yoon was impeached by Parliament in mid-December and suspended from power. At the impeachment trial last week, Yoon and his lawyers argued that he never intended to fully impose martial law, but had only meant the measures as a warning to break a political deadlock. Insurrection is one of the few criminal charges from which a South Korean president does not have immunity. It is punishable by life imprisonment or death, although the country has not executed anyone in decades. A number of top military officials were also indicted for their roles in the alleged insurrection.
A preliminary investigation revealed that bird feathers and blood stains were found in both engines of Jeju airplane that crashed in last December. The Boeing 737-800 en route from Thailand, Muan, South Korea on the 29th of December crash exploded fireball after colliding with a concrete barrier.
South Korea has released the initial findings of a probe into the crash of a Jeju air flight last month, but mysteries remain. All 175 passengers and 4 of 6 crew were killed in the incident, making it the worst ever air crash on South Korean soil. Now investigators say they have found duck remains in both engines of the Boeing 737-800. They also confirmed that the pilots reported a bird strike. But it's still unclear why the plane landed with its wheels up. It's also a mystery why voice and data recorders, the so-called black boxes, both failed just before pilots declared an emergency. At the moment they failed, data showed the plane was still flying. Investigators are also probing the role played by airport structures. After it touched down, the airliner ploughed into an embankment built around navigation equipment at Muan Airport. Critics have said the structure contributed to the high death toll and should not have been located in line with the runway. The International Civil Aviation Organization, a UN agency, requires accident investigators to submit a preliminary report within 30 days. It then encourages them to produce a final report within 12 months. South Korean investigators have promised an all-out effort to determine the full causes of the crash.
Tensions are rising as the controversial hat reading "Canada is not for sale" goes viral following US President Donald Trump's bold remarks about Canada, the 51st US state. The phrase gained traction from Ontario Premier Doug Ford sported that hat during a meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, fueling an already heated debate.
A hat emblazoned with "Canada is not for sale" has gone viral after US President Donald Trump threatened the country with tariffs and suggested it could become the 51st state. The hat attracted attention after Ontario Premier Doug Ford wore it during a meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and other premiers to discuss Trump's vow to impose tariffs on imports from Canada.
Well, first of all, I'll talk about the hat that I'm wearing.
Liam Mooney is the founder of Jack Pine Dynamic Branding, the Ottawa-based design firm behind the hat. He says tens of thousands of orders have been placed. Tariffs would cripple Canada's economy and also raise prices of oil and other goods in the US. In the segment, the host suggested to the premier that it would be a, quote, privilege for Canada to join the US. Ford responded that Canada is not for sale. The company's principal creative director, Emma Cochrane, says the hat's message has unified Canadians across the political spectrum.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Stay tuned. Pete Hegseth is sworn in as the 29th Secretary of Defense, joining President Trump's cabinet following a dramatic late-night Senate vote. Vice President J.D. Vance administered the oath in Eisenhower Executive Office building with Hegseth's wife Jennifer Rochette by his side and Republican senators in attendance.
Pete Hegseth was sworn in Saturday morning as the next U.S. Defense Secretary, after narrowly securing enough votes for the position. Tie-breaking vote was made Friday night by Vice President J.D. Vance, after 3 Republicans joined every Democrat and Independent in voting no. It was only the second time in history a cabinet nominee needed a tie-break to be confirmed. The 3 Republican senators who voted against Hegseth were Senators Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and Mitch McConnell, who was the party's leader in the chamber until this month. In a statement, McConnell said, quote, "Mere desire to be a change agent is not enough to fill these shoes." Hegseth, a former Fox News personality and decorated veteran, is the most divisive candidate to clinch the U.S. military's top job, a position that has historically gone to individuals with deep experience running large organizations and who enjoy broad bipartisan support. His nomination was rocked by a series of accusations, including one this week by his former sister-in-law, who said he abused his second wife to the extent that she hid in a closet and had a cold word with friends if she had to be rescued. Hegseth strongly denied the accusations, and his wife had previously denied any physical abuse. Hegseth will lead 1.3 million active duty service members and the nearly 1 million civilians who work for the U.S. military, which has a nearly $1 trillion annual budget.
Hamas released 4 female Israeli soldiers held in hostage in Gaza, while Israel freed 200 Palestinian prisoners in high-profile exchange under a 6-week Gaza war ceasefire deal. The free soldiers were reunited with their families after over 15 months in captivity, while Palestinians in Ramallah celebrated the return of prisoners.
Celebrations in Israel and in the occupied Palestinian territories on Saturday as hostages were released in keeping with the Gaza ceasefire deal. In Israel, 4 female soldiers reunited with their families. Seen in footage released.
President Trump announced plans to impose a 25% emergency tariff on Colombia after the country's refused to allow U.S. military deportation flights to land. Trump criticized the Colombian president, calling him unpopular and accusing him of jeopardizing U.S. national security and public safety.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Sunday he would impose sweeping retaliatory measures on Colombia, including tariffs, sanctions, and travel bans. The move comes after the South American country turned away 2 U.S. military aircrafts, with migrants being deported as part of the new U.S. administration's immigration crackdown. Trump's swift action appeared aimed at making an example of Colombia, to dissuade other countries from defying him on deportation flights. He said Colombian President Gustavo Petro's refusal jeopardized U.S. national security and has directed his administration to take retaliatory measures. That includes imposing emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States, which will go up to 50% in 1 week, as well as a travel ban and visa revocations on Colombian government officials and its allies. Petro condemned the practice, suggesting it treated migrants like criminals. And in response, Colombia threatened a 50% tariff on U.S. goods. According to the State Department, the United States is Colombia's largest trade and investment partner, and Colombia is also the U.S.'s 3rd largest trade partner in Latin America. Mexico also refused a request last week to let a U.S. military aircraft land with migrants. Trump did not take similar action against Mexico, the U.S.'s largest trade partner, but has said he was thinking of imposing 25% duties on imports from Canada and Mexico on February 1st.
Time for a short commercial break. More world news coming on the other side. Welcome back. A group of student athletes is experiencing the incredible rewards of their dedication and hard work paying off. They are now being honored with life-changing surprises that will leave a lasting impact on their futures.
Lipscomb University guard Jack Ingold always dreamed of being on the Bison's basketball team.
And finally tonight, a proposed New York City Council bill seeks to expand Earn Safe and Sick Time Act, allowing employees to use sick leave for pet-related medical care, including treatment and preventive care. This reflects broader trend toward workplace policies that prioritize employee well-being and flexibility.
New Yorkers caring for ailing pets may soon get to use paid sick leave to tend to their furry family members. That's the aim of a bill sponsored by New York City Council member Sean Abreu, who says he wants to make pet ownership easier.
It would provide sick leave for people to take care of their companion animals, which we believe is very important from a health standpoint. When you take care of your animals, you're taking care of yourself too.
The bill would amend a New York City law that requires employers to provide paid annual sick leave to workers so they can care for themselves or family members. If the bill is passed, Abreu says workers could use that time to care for pets and service animals.
We're not giving any additional days. We're just saying, let's give individuals the flexibility to use that time as they wish, particularly if it promotes healthy activities and healthy behavior. When you take care of your animals, it means that your cortisol levels go down, which means it improves your issues with anxiety. It encourages physical activity like walking your dog, right? Which also reduces depression.
If Abreu's proposal becomes law, animal shelters too might see positive change. But not all of the city's dog owners are in favor of the bill. The bill was introduced in late October, but it could still be months before it comes to a vote.
Well, that's all we have for you on our rundown here tonight on World News. We will meet you again tomorrow with more updates across the globe. Also stay tuned as we've got Sanvi Mudannaiga joining you next on the Nightly Business Report. And before we end tonight, we'll leave you with visuals of the Louvre Museum, which is displaying couture fashion alongside historic objects. Thank you for watching. Have a very good night.